Hey, spending the day in the shop again. I find great satisfaction in working in my wood shop with wood that I found from my jobs. And I know a lot of you have seen many of my videos where I show that I make a lot of walking sticks. But I make canes as well. I make different types of tools for helping your balance. Some of the canes I've made can double as a walking stick, and whenever I find a really interesting piece of wood, I like to consider what I can do with it. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a graft. You can see the graft union right here, and this is from a peach tree. And it had a really fat base that was grafted onto a skinny piece, and I actually got two sticks out of it. I cut it at an angle on the bandsaw, and I worked it all the way up. So it's got a nice feel to it. It's different than a real big hook, but I play with the feel of each of the walking sticks that I make, or walking canes. Everyone has a different purpose, a different use. Now, some of the walking sticks I make, I actually call them walking staffs. So some of the sticks that I make are actually more of a staff, and this would be for a taller man or somebody that likes something a little bit more pronounced, something with a little bit of heft to it. You know, I'll often put the crutch tips on there. Sometimes I'll put a spike in the end of it. And, you know, the spike gets a good grip on the ground. And I like to carve. Sometimes I'll do little carvings. That one's kind of interesting, a little old man, kind of like me. But I also do, here's another staff. This one's a little bit taller. Some of them more natural, some of them are more refined. Some of them are more polished, and some of them I like to leave the character of the wood. You know, this one I left some of the bark on it. I left a lot of the knots. I sanded it up. It's got an interesting grip to it. It's a little bit heftier than most. This one's a little bit shorter, but if I had trouble walking, this would be a really good one for me to lean on. You know, because you can straight arm it and put your hand down, and it would really help out if you had a bad knee or something. Whereas if you've got a cane that you're hanging onto it out here, it's not quite as good. So if you've got more of a stance that really holds your weight up, you know, right now, I mean, I could take all the weight off of one leg completely. You know, it's kind of a step between a crutch and a cane, but I think that the shape of the handle makes a big difference. Here's an interesting one that I'm starting here. I've got quite a few of these. I've got a tree. This is from a privet that was topped off at one time, and these are all the water sprouts that came up. This one's a little bit small, but I've got some that are a little bit bigger. But even this one, you know, if you cut them off like this, you put your finger around it, it makes for a really nice shape. This one's a lightweight, smaller one for a very small person, maybe a child. Haven't finished that one yet. We'll see how it comes out. But every one of these walking sticks kind of takes on a life of their own. They have a story behind them. Here is another part of that same peach tree that I cut out. It was a peach tree grafted here, and this was from the edge, and I took more of a straight bit. And quite often, I'll make them textured. I really like the textured sticks. It's just got a good feel to it. It's a little bit different. And this one has got a handle more like this. I could cut it a little bit shorter. Sometimes I leave it a little bit long so they can be adjusted to the size of the body that needs it. This one right here, see how my shoulder's coming up, so if I took about 2 inches off, I'd be more like that. So that would give me a little bit more straight arm. So I like the look and feel of it. Every walking stick or staff that I make, I test them. I go out and walk with them and feel them and feel for any burrs or any sharp spots or anything that's on there. Most of the time I wax them. Sometimes I'll put a little stain on them, a little bit of coloring, but I really like the natural color of whatever wood that I'm working with. So the one that I'm working on right now, I don't know if you can see it here. I've got my draw knife out, Been doing a little bit of work shaping this down. This is from a Japanese maple. Here's the other side of the same tree. It was one trunk, and I cut it in half with the bandsaw, and I shaped it down, rough shaped it down with a draw knife, and I took it to some of my power tools. I've got a grinder and a big sander, and I just keep working and working and working. And once again, I sand it till it feels good all the way through. This one I put a hole on it. I'm going to put a handle strap on there of some leather. It just seems to fit it. It's a very white wood. It's Japanese maple is as hard as any maple, but it's kind of rare to find a Japanese maple that somebody cuts down that isn't rotten. Now this particular tree was dying. All the upper branches were dead, but the trunk, I got about 4 feet or 5 feet of straight trunk, and I kept that whole, took it over the bandsaw, ripped it down, got a couple of sticks out of it. I should go back to the client that I cut this down because they were so sad to lose their Japanese maple. I should just give it to them. Maybe I will. Now this is kind of a cool one. This is a different type of Japanese maple. This was a grafted Japanese maple, and you can see the delineation here in the graft. It's very clear. It's very definite. But it was a short trunk, and the roots came out right here. It had a big fat root ball, and I kind of shaped it down, and the roots were underground, so it grew kind of like that. It had a little bit of a twist to it. So I kept it as natural as possible, cleaned it all up, just put a couple of, I think I did put a coat of varnish on this one first, and that's why it darkened up just a hair. And then I finally finished it up with some wax. This one's got a good feel to it. You know, I can put both of my arms down. This would actually be good for a shorter person. This is, it's about 4 feet long. I have a lot of fun. I really enjoy, you know, working with found objects from my jobs. How's that for a picture frame? For an arborist? Who knows? Now these are all gifts that I make and give away to family and friends. How's that for a coat hanger? Just cut it off flat off the tree. There's another one. Double-sided coat hanger. Another coat rack. In this case, a shop smock. How about places to hang your keys? I found these little railroad spikes. They're tiny little railroad spikes, but I mean, look at that. Hang that up on the wall. That's where your keys always go. One for him, one for her. What about a door handle? Look at this piece of wood that I found. Flat on the back, a couple of screw holes, finish it up. I mean, that's classic. And if you cut it a little bit different, you can take a cavity on a tree, a hollow cavity, and cut it off and polish it up. Put your picture on there, one way or another, hang it up on the wall, and it's a frame. These are definitely gifts for arborists. I have no idea what I can do with that, but I'm sure I could figure something out. Now, somewhere in here, I've got the right bit. It's called a keyhole bit. Where is it? Let's see. Oh, there it is. I'm going to have to switch out the collet to the larger piece. I'll show you how this works. Well, I hope a lot of you guys can find some time to take some of the found wood that you throw away and chip and see it as something more than just getting the job done. You know, salvage some of the stuff that you've got. And, you know, if you're in the tree business, talk to your clients. Say, you know, hey, I made something out of your tree. You'd be surprised how often somebody comes back and says, wow, you made that out of my tree? And, you know, it's very satisfying, very, very satisfying. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.